Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sean's Mapping, or the Sultanate Empire, and in today's video, we are going to be continuing What If Civilization Started Over. Let's go ahead and get into today's video, where today we are going to be looking down at Australia and New Zealand for the time being, and also for the start of this video. Let's go ahead and get on right down there. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, here we are down here in Australia slash New Zealand, slash Oceania, down in this area. One of the many reasons why we are down here is because we are actually going to look at a couple of wars that are going to be taking place. One of those wars is the North versus South New Zealand War, where we'll be seeing the North New Zealanders and the South New Zealanders go to war with one another. Now, the North New Zealanders are able to push against the South fairly well, but they do find quite a bit of problems as New Zealand is fairly heavily mountainous and stuff like that. So they do struggle, and eventually the front line stalls right about there. Now, let us go ahead and look at some stuff happening over in Australia while the New Zealanders fight amongst themselves. And that is actually a war of its own, where we will be seeing this Central Australian country looking for some more ocean slash water access and essentially more access to the coast. So we'll actually be seeing this country invade into this coastal country right over here. Now, considering this country is in practically the middle of the desert, they have major cities, yes, but those major cities don't have a lot of people living in them because, again, desert. Not very nice. But they are still fairly stronger than this country right over here. But also, not to mention, this country, which has had zero access to the ocean or the water since their creation, is looking for access to that. So they begin their own invasion over here, and they quickly secure coastal territory and even a major city. And eventually, they're able to secure a second major city before continuing their pushes inland and even more inward. Now, this country had pulled most of their military forces away from this area and redeployed them up here, as this country doesn't really have a big military because they only really needed a big enough military to like defend against this Central Australian country. Um, and that was it, which meant that their military was always bigger than this small one down here, considering also they had way more cities and a lot more population. But considering both of these countries are invading them at the same time, their military isn't big enough to handle it. Because their military is about the same size as the Central Australian country, bigger than this country, but both of these two countries invading at the same time makes it bigger than their military can handle. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to fight back, because they're definitely fighting back as they're able to push a little bit down in the southern portions, and even they get very close to almost retaking one of their major cities. But unfortunately, those pushes in the south are just not enough, as the Central Australian Republic slash Empire, whatever you want to call them, continues their push against this coastal country right over here. And I mean, it goes fairly well, not too good, not too bad. It goes okay, to say the least. It goes okay. And eventually they're able to push to right about here. But for the most part, the Central Australians use most of their military to focus on the coastal areas, as that's the primary, like, prime good zone that they have. And I mean, eventually, whoopsie, too far down. Eventually, this southern country right here will be able to regain their momentum and begin to push against this country once again, eventually capturing this major city and closing in towards the capital. This country, realizing what is happening, doesn't want to be completely annexed by either country, so they come to the table with a deal on how much territory each side is going to get. Sorry, I was yawning. Very early in the morning for me. I really need to stop recording these videos like late and early in the morning, like late at night and early in the morning, so I'm not tired when I record them. But hey, it's for you guys, so I don't care if I'm tired. But let us go ahead and look at the peace treaty that is drawn up by all three sides and what land each side is going to get from this war and how much land this country may lose. Right about now. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, here you can see the peace treaty following the end of that war right there. Now, another thing we are going to be looking at is ooh, this country right up here is actually going to be declaring war on their own for the first time on the southern New Zealand, technically colony that is over here in Australia, that the southern New Zealanders have. And they will, quite frankly, easily take it over, considering the population doesn't like the southern New Zealanders because, well, they're Australian. Um, and also, the southern New Zealanders have had to pull most of their military out of this area to kind of defend their mainland over in New Zealand from the north. So, with fairly easy military tactics and also very little resistance from the South New Zealander militant forces in the region, these guys fairly easily push and capture a lot of this area. And eventually, the South New Zealand government just comes to them with a deal, and this is what the deal is going to look like. Alrighty, this Australian country gets most of the South New Zealand colony, but the rest of it goes over to the Union of Australia, which is down here. And actually, after years of having three separate capitals, the Union of Australia has officially decided that, well, they are now only going to have one capital, and that is over on Tanzania. Now, the Union of Australia has the fourth best navy in the world right now. The first best navy is the Pink Australians, the North Australians, considering most of their empire are islands. So they have a massive island empire, and a lot of their like territory that they have even on big land masses are coastal areas more than like inland areas. I mean, even if we go over all the way to their American colony, their South American colony, they have a lot of coastline, quite a bit of inland territory, but primarily a lot of coastline. And then also their previous colony up here in North America also had quite a bit of coastline, not a lot of inland territory. So they have a fairly powerful navy. The next best navy after them is, of course, the United Islands of Southeast Asia, because again, island empire, good navy. Then following them is, of course, the Union of Australia. After that, it's India. After India, it's actually Tanzania. And then after Tanzania, it would have been the Orange team, but they don't exist anymore. So probably the West African Empire, and then, so on and so forth. But let us get back to the war that is New Zealand, basically. And let us go ahead and look at everything that is going on right down here. The North New Zealanders are actually able to push more and more, just like so. Well, eventually, they reach right about here, right outside the outskirts of the capital. It's here when the South realizes, okay, we need to do some stuff. So they begin to do some conscription. And, well, we all know what happens when you do conscription. But some of you may not. So, we will be seeing the South begin to do some conscription. And after doing conscription, of course, they essentially begin to push back the North. But this does piss off their population. So, a lot of their conscripts defect to the North. And a lot of their civilians begin to actually protest and rebel against the Southern government. So, eventually, the capital falls to combined forces of rebels, militia, and even former conscripts that defected to the north, until eventually the entirety of the South is, in fact, taken. So let us go ahead and look at the peace treaty of New Zealand, and well, I mean, we all know what's going to happen. Full annexation, basically. So let us go ahead and now go to a different part of the world with some even more war right about now. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, here we are in North America, well, the recently freed North America from colonization, thanks to World War II, where all of the colonizers in North America were completely kicked off of North American soil. But the reason we are up here is because we're going to be looking at some wars that's going to be taking place. And the first war that we are going to be looking at is this country right here invading into this country right down here, looking for some territorial expansion. Now, this country is fairly weak, but most of these North American countries are. Not all of them are strong. Most of them have protection from the Native American Federation, but that's only from foreign powers, not native countries like this green one right here. And this country, well, they've been struggling to properly be formed, as their government was actually one of the like failed setup governments that were put into place. So they've actually been struggling trying to set up their country. And so, after a little bit, the government surrenders over to the green team. And, well, let us go ahead and look at what happens with them surrendering. And, well, I mean, we all can guess what that is. And that's practically full annexation of this country. This country gets fully annexed, the government is dissolved, and the Native American Federation uh, isn't happy that the natives are fighting amongst themselves, but hey, what are you gonna do? It's gonna happen. There's nothing you can really do about that. We're going to look at yet another war happening here in America, and that is this country right here invading this northern country up here, looking for some coastal ocean access, even if it's a frozen access, of course. But eventually, they are able to quickly take this country's capital, as this country's military is fairly small and weak. So, after taking the capital, the rest of the country surrenders over. And, well, you can kind of guess what is also going to happen to this country. I mean, it's not, it doesn't take a genius to figure out what is going to happen to this country, of course. And this is, in fact, what happens to the country. They get completely annexed, um, basically, and pretty much they also have their government dissolved and they officially disappear off the map. Now, another country we are going to be looking at is actually down here, Mexico, or Mexico, as one may say. Well, as the natives of Mexican, as the Mexicans may say, Mexico, or Mexico for the American people. They are actually going to do some land deals with a certain country. What country that may be, you'll just have to wait and find out. So let us go ahead and get on right into it. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, as we can see up here, the Mexicans make a land exchange and also offer up some money to the Floridians for buying this land. Why, you may be asking? Well, because the Mexicans are getting ready to prepare and invade into Cuba. Um, so that they have more control of the Gulf, and also of the Caribbean with their navy, of course. Now, the Mexicans did this because Florida and New England, along with also Central America, all have guarantees of independence on the Caribbean countries over here to prevent them from being invaded. Now, the Mexicans know this. So they basically sold land over to and gave money over to Florida to basically have them remove their guarantee. Now, they really only have to worry about New England. But New England is distracted with other things, as there have been many border skirmishes between New England and Michigan, this Michigan native country right here, which is actually allied to the Native Federation. But 2 weeks before the invasion, the Floridians give up their islands and sell it over to the Cubans. So everyone thinks everything's fine and dandy and okay and cherry and good until the Mexicans invade. And once the Mexicans invade the southern like tip over here, and also take this island right there, and begin pushing up the up Cuba, it's basically a what in the world is even happening? Florida isn't coming to their aid. Central America is too weak to take on Mexico alone. The New England is distracted with their own problems, which is basically saying that it's a practical cakewalk for Mexico, and eventually Mexico takes all of this land right over here. And, well, we all know what Mexico is going to do at this point. Full annexation. Full annexation is, in fact, correct, as Mexico is just fully annexing all of Cuba. So, unfortunately, Cuba is gone, but the government isn't gone. No, 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 no. The government is far from gone. They exist now in the Bahamas. They are now the Bahamas. So, a actual smart move from Florida by selling the Cubans this land, they gave them uh, territory over here that will allow them to survive and live essentially. But following the end of this war, the New Englanders are, well, New England essentially, they, well, they're going to create an alliance. And we're actually going to look at two alliances that are being created today in today's episode. The first alliance is, of course, the alliance of the New Englanders, which involves, of course, New England and also Florida, right down here, uh, Jamaica, Haiti, Puerto Rico, the Dominican. Sorry for coughing. The Bahamas, and also Central America, right down here. So this is the Caribbean Accord. The next alliance we see getting formed is actually the North American uh, Pact, which includes the Native American Federation, their ally over in Michigan, and even California right down here. These three form a nice big wall between the North and the South of America. Basically, the southern countries in North America and the northern countries in North America, basically, form a nice little wall. Ooh, excuse me. So, those are the two alliances being formed in today's episode. Now, let us go ahead and look at some other things happening over in Europe. Beautiful, beautiful Europe. Just glorious, glorious Europe. As well, some things are happening in the Elderian Empire and Germany. Let us go ahead and take a look at all the things that are happening in Germany and the Elderian Empire right about now. I don't think the snap worked. Hold on. I need to try again. Give me a second. The snap didn't work. I said, now. Nope, didn't work again. Hold on. Give me a second. It's going to work eventually. And alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, and here we are with the Elderian Empire and Germany going through, both of them going through communist rebellions. So let us go ahead and look at everything that is going on right about now, where we will see both of these communist countries practically, or well, rebellions begin their early pushes against the governments, and well, the German communists find quite a bit of success in pushing against the German government, as well, the Germans weren't really expecting a rebellion, especially of the communist variety, They thought their people were generally happy with the government. Clearly not. The Eldirian Empire, well, the emperor has been expecting this form of rebellion, if you will, or well, just been expecting this type of rebellion for quite a while due to the fact that the Eldirian Empire has quite a bit of ideologies and political stuff within their country. So we see these rebellions essentially pop up in these areas where they are most popular in within the Eldirian Empire. However, the Eldirian Empire is a very strong nationalistic country that very much loves their current ruling party. So as soon as these communist movements even pop up, most of these movements are actual like foreign actors that are actual foreigners that were inside of the Eldirian Empire that basically got their citizenship and have been living inside the Eldirian Empire. That is who most of the communist rebellions are made up of, as the regular pure blooded Eldirian citizen is too nationalistic to the current government to even try and be persuaded to betray. Only a small portion of that nationalistic population has been converted over into the communist. But unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, that is all the time we have for today's video. I'm Chan's Mapping, or the Sultanate Empire. If you enjoyed today's video, I hope you go beneath the video and leave a good old like on the video. I also hope you check out the rest of the videos involved in season 1 of my What If Civilization Started Over. If you didn't like the video and you don't like any of the other videos involved in the series, go ahead and leave a dislike on this video and any of the other videos, and also tell me in the comments of this video or any of the other videos that the video sucked and that I should do better. If you want to be notified or updated of the next time I make a post, go live, or even upload a video onto my channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, then hit the bell notification icon next to the subscribe button so you're notified the next time and every time I upload onto my channel. I hope you beautiful ladies and gentlemen enjoy the rest of your day or night, wherever you may be, wherever you may live, and I will see all of you beautiful people in the next episode.